Cool. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday night. I am Ryan Hill. I'm with you in the booth covering Sim Race Africa round 1 of the 2024.2B. That's a bit of a mouthful. We're going to have to change that for next time. Season. We are in the Volvo S40 BTCCs, sort of a historic classic British touring car. We ran them before, although it was alongside a couple of other in the BTCC series. Including the BMW 320 and I think it was the Nissan Primera, but it was extremely popular, the Volvo that is, in that previous series we ran a couple of years ago, so we decided to do a single make series with them, which I'm very much looking forward to tonight. You can see some footage happening in the background of just one of the historic BTCC coverage, and we are out at Road America for round 1, and it's quite a popular track. We've raced it in numerous series here before at Sim Race Africa, so it is no stranger. But of course, yeah, Motorsport Road course in Wisconsin, in America, and it's I think it was built around 1955. It was opened, and it's still in use today. Good to see when historic racetracks are still kept up, and it currently hosts all sorts of things, such as IndyCar, IMSA Sports Car Champs, the GT World Challenge of America is still going, and I think there's some motorbike racing there as well. The Moto America, there's one such series that is held there as well. But good to be out there today in the Volvos. Very keen to see what happens. It's got 14 turns, a lot of kinks, a little bit of elevation change as well, some 90-degree turns, quite a couple of them in fact, so yeah, could make for some quite cool racing. We also have an extremely full grid tonight, which I'm going to have a quick look and bring up on screen. This is round 1, so it's not really championship standings yet. This is anyone's game, but here are the entrants for tonight, at least the time of preparing the stream. I think that may have crept up to 24 drivers now on track, as I saw the server boot, but a lot of old hat names, a lot of favorites, Nick Hodson, Brett Kirkhamp, Ryan Ludick, all up there in terms of the top 3 on simracing.gp, and certainly favorites tonight. But we have some old hat names, some returning drivers. Good to see Jeremy De Villiers is out there and back with us, and we have a couple of new faces on the grid as well. And in terms of quali times, so these are just some of the times that were logged on the practice server, hosted by Brett Kirkhamp, and I think we could see Nick Hodson doing a best lap, 2:11.977. Not exactly, oh, I'm sure, I was going to say, I'm not sure what tyre compound that was on. That was on the softs, but drivers today have soft, medium, or hard compound to choose from. I do know that the softs barely last 1 or 2 laps, and then they are basically burnt out. So it'll be very interesting to see if anyone tries and takes the gamble to join on the softs, that is, putting them out there in practice, because I think that's going to be an extremely risky choice, but it could have a good payoff, so like high risk, high reward. I'm just looking at the weather forecast for today as well. As far as I know, it's pretty moderate. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, an ambient temperature of 19 degrees, which is a little bit on the cooler side, but it is probably going to help the tires. Then calculated road temp 25 degrees Celsius, no variation whatsoever, so very constant. And the grip is also very grippy as well, starting at 98 out of 100%, and very quickly going to get to 100. In fact, I'm pretty sure we'll see optimum before we even hit midway through quali. Right, before we just hit to the live track, I'm going to quickly run a hot lap guide by our very own Nick Hodson, and that'll give you a very good idea of what you can expect drivers will be going through with a nice view of his cockpit. So back in a couple of minutes, but for now, here's Nick.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sim Race SA 2024.2B season. We are in the simVolvo Cup. This is round 1 and we are at Road America. Get a good exit out of the last corner to make sure that you capitalize on this Road America straight. Coming up now towards the start-finish line. There we go, straight across it into 6th gear and looking for our braking point into turn 1. Don't push it too hard here. You want to just brake after that grey tarmac, grey concrete. get the car flicked in, don't run too wide, you will lose out on your exit. Looking for turn 2 now, braking hard into 3rd gear, keep the car tucked in nicely to get a good exit. Once again, out of turn 3, make sure not to clip the curb on the outside, that will slow you down for this long straight, and under the bridge we go, which is technically turn 4, but really not very much of a turn there at all. Through moraine sweep and looking for our braking points just as we crest that hill. Hard on the brakes, down to 2nd gear, flicking the car in and running all the way out on the right hand side there and getting a good exit up the hill under Corvette Bridge, turning in 2nd gear once more, getting a good drive out of the corner, looking to flick through into turn 7, just riding that curbing a little bit there and throwing the car off, but no matter, all the way down Hurry Downs into 2nd gear once again and getting a good power out and trying to line ourselves up for this long carousel sweep. As you can see, feathering the throttle there, just allowing the car to drift back out so we can once again get the power down and make sure we make the absolute most of this long, almost straight, because we got this little right hand flick. Here we go, in, just feathering the throttle and back fully on it. 6th gear now, down through kettle bottoms and looking for our braking point. You can push it a little bit harder than this, but I like to get a nice exit out of Canada Corner. And once again going through Thunder Valley, flicking the car up and over Bill Mitchell Bend, which is tending to throw the car off, but it's all good. Getting our braking pretty much spot on for turn 14. Very tricky last corner here at Road America. Easy to throw away all the hard work you've just done, but we are looking for a decent time as we cross the finish line for a 2-minute 12.574.
A very competitive lap time indeed there from Nick. We are now cutting to live pictures. Just with the helicam, I'm going to flick over to some trackside TV cameras. And you can see how the session is progressing at the top middle of your screen. We have just 3.5 minutes left of pre-practice, allowing drivers to join the server, get a feel for things, sort out their setups. And then very soon we will be progressing to the qualifying session. So just a reminder of how things are going to work this season. It's got the same structure as we did for the Renault Clio Cup in the last season. In other words, it's a double-header tonight, 2 back-to-back 20-minute races. But there's going to be a 10-minute qualifying race, or qualifying session, sorry, not a race, in about 3 minutes' time. And then the first race of 20 minutes will be happening, and the second race of 20 minutes features a reverse grid for the top 10 drivers that finished race 1. So it's not the entire grid that's being reversed, just the top 10 out of the, you can see the tower on your left hand side of the screen is about 23 drivers I see connected right now. The 24th is just myself sitting in the BMW in the pit lane to be able to provide you with these pictures. Oh, not sure if that's a little bit of a network lag there. Or, I'm connecting to the server from overseas, but hopefully it's just my side and not some issues with any of the drivers that are connected so far. I see one driver potentially having a red ping. We'll need to keep an eye on him, and if he does seem to be erratic, we might need to quickly just run an admin command to unfortunately disqualify that driver. But I'll keep an eye on that in the last couple of minutes of practice. You see just on side here with Brett Krockamp, currently setting the fastest time in practice out there on the softs as we speak. And he's clocked at 2:13.25. Nick Hodson is following in his heels at 2:13.3. So very close indeed. You can see the track grip and weather in the top hand right of your screen. Optimum 99% track grip. So I think perhaps even by the start of qualifying you might have 100% track grip all the way. We have Jeremy de Villiers in P3 currently, although he's in the pit lane. Just 40 seconds left. I'm sure he might just camp out there now until the quali session ticks over. Greg Hoopart's out there currently in P4, looking pretty strong. Roxanne Bartle currently sitting with a P5 banking time in practice, also in the pit lane. Martin Groenewold out there in force, also a strong showing, and P6 for now. Dirk Brand is out there as well. Good to see Dirk back at SRSC these days. After having gone through a period of selling his wheel, now he's bought a wheel again. It's good to see some returning drivers. He's got a very solid practice lap in there. He's just bought himself out to P5. Rudy Opperman, also an up-and-comer, relatively new to SimRace South Africa. Just been with us about a season now or so. And good to see him putting in the effort to put in some good practice laps. Richard Bera and Ryan Ludick out there as well. James Leach, Maslin Govender, Stuart van Tonde, Dennis Gillett, Hendrik van der Berg. He's being chased down by, I'm not sure who that is in the foreground, Sheldon Stunder. In the pits with Gideon Bernardi. Joe Gardman is a new name I do not recognize, so welcome Joe. Alan Benton, Yuri Fedotov is the guy. I just need to keep an eye on his ping. Daniel Haynes is the return driver. Andres Rodio, Willem Immelman, and of course Sas van der Westhuizen, fellow admin as well, on track. Just currently sitting in the pit lane now while we wait for the clock to reset for the quali session. Cross the line. Put the driver names on so I can see who's who here. It's Nick Hodgson being followed very closely by Hendrik van der Berg right now. Alright, there we are in overtime right now. So the session will be progressing to quali very shortly. Quick shout out as well to all our viewers in the YouTube stream. Good to have you with us. Hardest, how's it? Saying hi in chat. How you doing? If there's anyone in the race as we go forward tonight that you want to have a look at trackside, if I've been neglecting, just give me a shout out as well. And I'll see if I can find them on my little control app. So there they are, peeling out of the pits en masse. Led by Brett Crowcamp out of the gates. And I'm going to leave driver names on just because the amount of custom liveries here are pretty much few and far between. So it should hopefully give at least me a little bit of a helping cue just to identify who's who on track. But I can currently see it's Brett Crowcamp out there leading the pack. Let's see if I can do something like that. Ah, there we go. You can see it's Jeremy de Villiers and Nick Hodgson currently hot on his heels. Now they might try and stay relatively close together for the first couple of sectors, and then I'm fairly sure that by the time they hit sector 3 they're going to start falling back from each other and just allowing each other some space, just to be able to make sure that they have a clean air in front of them, essentially. pretty iconic sounds coming out of these BTCC cars. Volvo S40. So it's the S40 is the Super Touring, was the second ever race car used by Cyan Racing, interestingly enough, in the Swedish Touring Car Championship. I know that Cyan Racing did favor Volvo for quite a long time, and then I believe they've gone to the Lincoln Co now in the current BTCC Championship that's ongoing as a race partner. But here we see some benchmark times being posted, and you'll see the tower going crazy in the top left of your screen. Looks like Brett's got a 2:18.4. That's obviously quite slow. I expect that time to drop significantly, perhaps even by as much as 5 seconds, because that was just a little bit of an outlap. But yeah, so the Volvo S40, it was used between 1998 to 2002, all the way up, and driven by pretty famous drivers like Matthias Ekström and Jan the Flash Nilsson. And a couple of specs on it. It's a 2-liter, 5-cylinder, produces 317 horsepower, 236 kilowatts. It's got a 6-speed sequential gearbox, front-wheel drive, of course. Its weight was just under a ton, 975 kgs. Quite long as well, 447 centimeters, but a moderate width of 172. And most importantly, produces some epic racing. The Belinda Brand shouting out for her dad, Dirk Brand, currently in chat. He is sitting in P6 right now that I have my trackside camera on, and looking to get a solid start tonight. That's Maslin Govender out there being followed by Gideon Bernardi. And let's have a look here as they head down the main Road America straight here. Brett Kirkham crosses the line again. So these are going to be the first of the hot laps here. And Nick Hodson has bested Brett Kirkham with a 2:12.694, now provisional pole, ahead of Brett Kirkham with the 2:13.110. Couple of other shiftings around. Jeremy de Villiers currently sitting in P3. Dirk Brand has improved from that P5 or so to a P4. Look at the times though, they are so close together across the field. Certainly at least the top 8 or so drivers, all extremely close. James Leach is another returning driver. Great to see James Leach back on track. He's just bumped himself up to a solid mid-pack P12, and I'm sure he's just getting warmed up, and I'm sure he's going to lay down some good laps and improve that time shortly. Willem Emmelman has just bumped himself up to P12, knocking James Leach down a couple of notches. Ryan Ludick is another very quick driver. I see him currently sitting in the pit lane though, so he'll no doubt get going very shortly and put down his fast laps. Martin Kronevalds is looking very nice up on his Delta. You can see in the sort of bottom middle of your screen where the little green block is, where there's minus 0.868788, 8.9. He's doing really well here, almost a second up on his best lap Delta, essentially is what it's saying. We can see his best lap was a 2:14.9. This predictably is going to hit about a 2:13.9. Or we need to be more specific. It's going to be about a 9.9, so that's probably going to bump him up to about a P5 if he manages to bank this lap. But of course, all the other drivers are also improving, but we'll stick with Martin here as he rounds the final corner. He's still up about a second on his in his delta. Prediction is a 213.94, which I think is going to get him about P4. Let's see, he's currently P9. And bumps up to P5. Dirk Brand has currently secured P4. Looking pretty solid out there. I'm going to quickly have a bounce around the field and see who else is up on their delta nicely. Jeremy is, I think, on an outlap. Brett Kirkhamp is sort of just below his bubble. Nick Hodgson significantly as well. I think that possibly is an outlap. Roxanne Bartle is doing well. 0.2 up on her best lap. That would slot her in 214.3. Would probably improve her one position if she manages to bank this currently. Still a significant amount of portion of the track to get through as well, so there's room for improvement. Greg Hofard looking pretty healthy, 0.33 up here. A 214.4 would probably bump him up one position as well. Let's see if we can find someone on a big jump as we cross down the track. Immelman just doing a spot of farming over there. That's not going to be any sort of improvement. Daniel Haynes is looking pretty good. Half a second up on his best. In fact, even more. That's going to jump him up to 216.8, which will probably slot him up 2 or 3 places. He's got a significant amount of the track still to get through. So yeah, look for Daniel Haynes bouncing up the track. Sheldon Stunder is off track currently. We can see whenever the tower flashes red on a particular driver, that means they're off track. So I'll kind of jump to them maybe, especially during the race, just to see what's going on with any sort of off-track shenanigans. Let's quickly go on board with Yuri Fedotov, new driver. Yuri, according to our entry list tonight, is hailing from Canada, according to his simracing.gp entrance. His ping, I'm not sure exactly where he's connecting from. But now I'm sort of satisfied that that car is not crabbing all over the place for now. You might have a highish ping, but as long as it's stable, it should be raceable. But we'll continue to keep an eye on that throughout the race. Ooh, who was that hugging the wall over there? I think that's just making sure he's pulled off the racing line. Not to interfere with any of the quick drivers coming through, and then he's going to bounce to pits, of course. James Leach has just improved all the way up to P7, so a nice quick lap there as he pulls over to the... Actually, that wasn't James pulling over to the side, that was someone else getting out of his way, but James is staying out there to get another quick lap. That looked like he must have had a very nice exit coming out of the final corner, because he's managed to carry almost 3 tenths up on his best, just into T2. And with quali over, this is it. This is last chance here. Nick Hodgson, wow, he's up 0.4, almost half a second on his quickest lap. So looking to extend and secure his pole position here. I'm not sure if there's going to be too many other drivers on track currently that can compete with that. Brett Kirkhamp is sitting in the pits, so he's certainly not going to be improving. Let's go and have a look at Jeremy de Villiers. What can he do? Sitting in P3 at the moment. He's got about another 2 sectors to get through the track, just having rounded T4, I think that was. Possibly T7. Harry Downs now. I'm going to see if I can quickly move this little widget over here. Sec while I sort out these little widgets. Here we go. He is up 0.2 on his best, which would make a 213.1, which is not enough to improve. Everyone else is in the pits all the way down to P10. Roxanne Bartle, who just crosses the line and takes P9. We're going to have a look down the field. Maslin Govender is not improving. Rudy Opperman improves up to P13 with that lap. Hendrik van der Berg He's got a significant amount of track to get through. Gideon Bernardi is coming up the hill and across the line, besting by 0.2 from his previous best, which puts him up into P20. Alright, that is the end of qualifying. So Nick Hodgson takes pole position, Brett Krockamp lines up alongside him. On the second row of the grid we have Jeremy de Villiers and Dirk Brand, and then the rest of the field. We will be back very shortly, don't go anywhere, quick 30-second ad break, and we'll be back with the grid for race 1. Thanks, Beamerstein. I realized that the audio was not on. That is my mistake. I'm glad that I glanced at the chat. Thanks for that. Apologies, sir. As I was saying, it's a relatively clean start. We have Ryan Luddick here side-by-side fighting with James Leach and Greg Hofart. They're all in the mix there. That is side-by-side Ryan Luddick and Greg Hofart. Coming down the main straight for Road America. And, oh, who's gone extremely wide out at the front there? I think that might have been Dennis Gillett, perhaps. It's extremely difficult, as I was saying, to spot the exact drivers there, which is why I've left the drivers' names on, especially just because a lot of the liveries are all looking the same here. I think they only had about 4 or 3 liveries to choose from. And look at this move here. This is with James Leach and is Dennis Gillett side by side. And around the outside there, James Leach just having the yellow stripe down the side, Dennis Gillett with the white stripe. And some great racing happening over there. As we see Ryan Ludick get around Andre Serodio. Ooh, a little bit of contact, and he manages to hold it, and someone's going farming. Just off in the background there. Martin Groenewald is also tied up in that mix with Richard Beer, and he has Rudy Opperman for company alongside. I tell you, there's one driver that I'm not currently seeing on grid yet, and that is Sas van der Westhuizen. Yuri Fedotov, meanwhile, getting past Daniel Haynes, and that is for P18. Lots of battles happening up and down the track so far. I'm just 5 minutes into this race. And that car is looking pretty second-hand along the side as I see Martin Groenewald get around Richard Beer for P11, desperately trying to find their way into P10, or the top 10 at least, because that is what the reverse grid is going to be coming into effect for race 2 tonight. So any positions in the top 10 are going to do very well for themselves to qualify for race 2. Stuart van Tonder has just promoted himself up into P20, getting past Alan Benton. And that is Hendrik van der Berg in the kitty litter. What has happened to Hendrik here? Seems to have been quite a way off track, and around comes P17 Cranian Banani off the main straight. That is essentially the last corner that he's gone off on, all the way deep through the kitty litter into that tire barrier, and hopefully not nursing any sort of significant damage. We're going to quickly see if I can see how straight he's holding his wheel. It looks pretty good. As we see in front of him, Daniel Haynes fighting for position here as they pile into T1. It's a long back straight here. And yeah, that Volvo is certainly looking quite second-hand. Andre Serodio getting past Roxanne Bottle, but look, it's a bit of a three-way battle here for P8. And there's Roxanne Bottle, Andre Serodio, and Ryan Ludick all in the mix. And I think it's Martin Groenewald just behind them, and then just behind those two, another couple of cars here. So this is an extremely tight battle here. Ultimately for P7, I think Greg Hobart. Oh, and there's heavy contact. And that has sent Greg Hofart, sorry, not Greg Hofart, who got sent off there? See if I can make heads or tails of who is leading this pack here. So we have Dennis Gillett out in P5, James Leach behind him, Greg Hofart is behind James Leach, heading into Canada corner now. And then Roxanne Bottle, who is just in front of Ryan Ludick. So that's the second sort of breakaway pack here that she is leading. The top 7 otherwise further up the road. Oh, and there's someone going farming off there, and that is Richard Beer doing some farming around the final corner here onto the Road America Straights. And thanks Hardest Boys for just pointing out that it was Andre Serodio that got bumped. He is now tucked in behind Rudy Oppermeyer coming up the main straight. He's in the draft. Is he going to take a dive into T1, or is he going to play it sort of safe? Oh, it was a little bit of a late seemingly movement there, and a little bit of a love tap on the back of Rudy Opperman, but both drivers managed to get away with it. And I'm just quickly hopping to James Leach, who has overtaken Dennis Gillett here for P5, but they're technically still side by side. And this is heading into turn 5 and around the bend. Dennis Gillet's going to have the inside line. James Leach trying to go around the outside, but I think he's going to have to slip back in behind into turn 6. That's the Corvette bridge. And this is another pack of 3 here. Dennis Gillet, James Leach, and Greg Hofart all fighting for P5 right now. Quick check-in with your leaders here. And so Nick Hodson is currently out in front with a healthy 2.5 second gap to Brett Krockamp behind him. And a little bit down the road, Jeremy de Villiers is currently sitting in P3, 3 seconds behind them. That looked like a big send there. Swinging around the outside. And then very closely, the next set of cars, Dirk Brand, P4. He's got a healthy bit of space in front and behind him now. And then here's this pack of 3. Dennis Gillet, James Leach, and Greg Hofart rounding Canada corner. And that's quite wide. And there's going to be some side-on contact there. And that's going to allow James Leach to slip through the 3 of them. But they are still neck and neck here. And rounding the final corner. And that's running very defensive up the inside, does Dirk Brand. As Nick Hodson just posts the fastest lap of the race, 2:12.489. Side by side here, let's just see if I can get another camera that's going to play ball here into T1. But Dennis Gillet has been overtaken now by Greg Hofart and James Leach, who made that move earlier to take the lead of this pack of 3. So that is P5. You can see the gap to Dirk Brand ahead of him is about 2-3 seconds. So Martin Groenewold now tucked in behind Ryan Liddick, fighting for P9. Around T5, heading into the Corvette bridge. It's T6, nice and prominent in your screen there. And we are pretty much at the halfway mark of this race one now, just under 10 minutes remaining. Looking at a battle developing here, just coming past the carousel. That is Greg Hofart alongside. Oh, James Leach is slipping down. Yes, he's in this pack of 3. And with some argy-bargy elbows out here, but they all manage to keep going. So of this 2, James Leach in the yellow and blue, he's out in front now. Greg Hofart is going to slip into the middle of them, and behind with the lights on, that is Dennis Gillet. Of the 3, and there's another close battle happening just behind them. Ryan Liddick is just behind Martin Groenewold here. They are practically bumper to bumper. Let's ride on board a little bit and get a nice view of the battle happening in the foreground as well as they head onto the main straight, Road America. Let's see if Ryan Liddick is going to think about taking any sort of dive into T1. He's having a look. He's pulled out of the draft, and a little bit later on the brakes was Roxanne Bartle, and it's just allowed her to stay in front. So some good racing there. Let's have a look what's going on further down the field. We have Yuri Fedotov in P20. Stuart van Tonder, P19. And then Hendrik van der Berg is about a second behind Daniel Haynes here, fighting for P17. I see, unfortunately, Sas van der Westhuizen was sitting in the pits, but his car appears to have been disconnected from the server. Not entirely sure what happened to Sas van der Vestes in there. That is deeply unfortunate. Sorry to see you missing round 1, Sas. You'll need to obviously take that as a drop round. There's 5 rounds in the season, and we take the best 4 rounds for points at the end of the season. Here's an interesting item. So Dennis Gillett is currently out there in P7 on the soft tire. Oh, big slide, big slide. And that was Ryan Luddick hunting down Roxanne Bottle. Now, I find it deeply impressive that Dennis Gillett has lasted this long in softs to be firmly within the top 10 P7. But my very sneaking suspicion is that these softs must be crying out in pain, and to last another even 6 minutes. Will that be a costly error, or will he somehow been the tire whisperer and made these softs work? Everyone else in front of him is on the hards, everyone else behind him is on the hards, all the way down to Richard Berra, who's out there on the medium tire. And nice solid mid-pack P13. I'm sure he's trying to wish himself up into P10. To be able to start in pole position for race 2, how amazing would that be? Willem Ilman's just got around Sheldon Stunder, who's off in the grass, doing a little weed whacking. He is, I almost thought he was going to pull into the pits there just based on the trajectory, but he is on his way again. He's out there on hard, so I don't see any particular reason why he would want to pit now. Maslin Govender is the only other driver out there on soft tire right now. And currently down in P22, and looks like catching up to Joe Gardman. So about to have a nice little scrap. But meanwhile, Dennis Gillett, who we were talking about earlier, out on the softs, who is chasing down P6. It's Greg Hofart in front of him. Ooh, a little bit wide in the background. That is 2 cars down, so I think that was Ryan Luddick. He was indeed just chasing down Roxanne Bartle there. I think, yeah, whilst that looked like there were a lot of cars in that mix there, technically there's a back marker in the mix here. Some blue flags being waved. Not entirely for positions here. That's, you can see the plain white livery car getting out of the way there. Doing a good job, actually, of yielding or allowing the faster drivers to pass through safely. That was Daniel Haynes here in P17, one of the plain white liveries. Right, so this breakaway packer, James Leach, leading at P5, followed very closely by Greg Hofart. The train of cars heading into T1. That's a pretty good drive that Greg Hofart's got out of the corner here, heading down into the Cheese Bridge, and he's practically alongside James Leach now, and going to be running through the Moraine sweep on the inside. Is that pass done? Or was a little bit of side contact, but I think that move is pretty much done. If he can hang on to the curve, yes, he does masterfully. T5 leading up to the Corvette Bridge now. They're actually still side by side. So it's not quite done here, but I do believe with that position through T7. Ooh, very sideways there. I think that was Dennis Gillett. On board, looking at this battle developing in front of us from Dennis Gillett's perspective. He has front row seats essentially to the battle for P5 ahead of him. And And you can see in his right wing mirror, behind him is looming Roxanne Bartle and Ryan Luddick. So this train of 5 essentially all still in it. Mistakes come easy here, and if anyone is happens to have some contact or makes a mistake, there could be some significant position changes. With just 2 minutes left, Martin Groenewold's currently sitting in the coveted P10 position, which will rocket him up to pole position for race 2 if he manages to hang on to this. Seems fairly safe at this point. There's quite a significant gap behind as well as in front of him, so relatively safe in that position for now. Who's not safe is Ryan Luddick and Roxanne Bartle, who are in a drag race right now, heading down the main straight down into T1. Who has the inside line? I think it is Ryan Luddick. It is indeed, who slips past Roxanne Bartle for P8. And meanwhile, Andres Radio gets past Rudy Opperman. That is for position P11. But still, a minute left here. No one challenging Nick Hodson. He is out there in a class of his own. 8 seconds ahead of Brett Krockamp. His best lap, a 2:12.898. Our predicted lap here is actually saying, well, sorry, his best lap is 2:12.3. His predicted lap is pretty much on that, so very consistent here. He's got all the space to play with, you know, so he can just concentrate on putting in those flying laps. He's managing his tyres well, the hards. No sign of any issues whatsoever. Dennis Gillett, I am dubbing thee the tyre whisperer. You have made stops last an entire 20 minutes. I don't know how. That is seriously impressive. Some good driving to manage those tyres in these conditions. With just 10 seconds left, Nick is on the main straight. I think he is going to cross the line. Oh, it's going to be close. Before or after the clock hits 0? Will we see another lap? There's the 0 on the clock. And I think that is the timing line. So, final lap. In fact, that is Nick done. He actually manages to pass the timing line in the nick of time. No pun intended. And that is going to mean that Brett Krockamp slides and drifts over the finish line. Jeremy de Villiers taking P3 into the kitty litter. Dirk Brand comes across for a solid P4. Greg Hopart P5. James Leach P6. Dennis Gillett P7. Ryan Luddick P8. Roxanne Bartle P9. And Martin Groenewold indeed banks that P10. So that top 10 is going to get reversed very shortly for race 2. Don't go anywhere. We are still looking at the rest of the field here for the finishing order. And let's see if there's any last minute battles here on track. Maybe Gideon Bernardi, Daniel Haynes having a go at it for P16. They're about to round the final corner now. That looks pretty safe. Hendrik van den Berg coming around the final corner now to slot home a P18. Stuart van Tonder will follow in suit. Joe Garwin is already sitting in the pits. I believe that possibly means he was lapped, so his race is over. Maslin Govender is still going out at there for P21. And then Yuri Fedotov, actually he's in the pits right now. Maslin is the last car up there on track, although I'm seeing a P22. There's Sheldon Stander, who's just pulled off track. So yeah, that is essentially it for race 1. The top 10 is about to be reversed. That always produces lots of action. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 30 seconds for race 2. Right, we are back and just waiting for the server to reset itself into race 2. We should have essentially identical conditions. The track grip is already at optimum temperature. So if anything, variation is going to come now through the change up in the grid for the top 10. And perhaps just lessons learned for across the entire pack here for what they've just gone through in race 1. They might make some adjustments for race 2. I'm quite curious to see if anyone's going to make a change in tire compound decision. Dennis Gillett, for example, in P7, who lasted all that distance on softs. Incredible drive. We'll see if he stays on softs. Sheldon Stunder was the only one out there in sort of the P top 15. He was out on mediums. I think everyone else was pretty much on hards except for Maslin Gavender. Yuri Fedotov actually see reporting as softs currently. I can't remember if that was in the previous race or maybe it's just reflecting now that he's changed it in the pits. Here we go. The grid is reforming as we speak. This will be the final few seconds before the grid will form. Right. Grid is formed. That is my camera car sitting on the grid. So let's hop to the grid. $30 seconds. Right, Martin Kronevold's lining up in P1, Roxanne Bartler alongside him. Ryan Ludick and Dennis Gillett are taking row 2. We have 6 lights about to come on. Final 20 minutes of racing, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lights are off, we are racing. Martin Kronevold has the inside line out on Roxanne Bartler, who is alongside. There's a very competitive field in the top 10. We see someone in the wall there. It's one of the yellow cars, which I know to be either Nick Hodson or Brett Kirkhamp. Oh, and someone's off. Who is farming? I think it's not Brett. It must be Nick, because Brett is reporting on my screen here. Rudy Opperman. No. Where is it? It's Nick all the way back in 23. He is literally the bottom of the grid right now. That is going to be a recovery drive we'll keep an eye on. Meanwhile, Martin Kronevold, Roxanne Bottle, Ryan Lillick and James Leach have got away with P1 to 4. And just behind him, side by side, it looks like Jeremy de Villiers with Greg Hofart. Andres Rodio is now also on the inside there. We can see the yellow car of Brett Kirkham threatening for P7. As they go through the Corvette bridge of turn 6. It's quite aggressive up there. Some little argy-bargy elbows out here. And this is defending hard. Andres Rodeo onto Brett Kirkhamp in the yellow behind him. Just ahead of that, I see Greg Hofart. I think maybe in some contact with Dirk Brand. I'm not entirely sure. But speared off track and recovers now a little bit further down into P12. Quickly looking up at the top of the field in P3, Ryan Ludick is a split second behind Roxanne Bartle here. Let's see, oh, sideways. Let's see if we go on board. In the mirrors, that is James Leach. He is pulling out to try and get alongside Roxanne Bartle into the inside corner here. Roxanne Bartle is always good on those brakes. You can see the later braking distance in comparison. And alongside now, James Leach in the yellow stripe, the yellow roof, and he has got through and past Jeremy de Villiers for P4. A couple of movements further down the field. Rudy has gotten a little bit of a door banging there, but ultimately all cars on their way. James Leach I see falling down the pack here. This is coming down the main straight. Hard under attack here, these three. I'm going to keep an eye on them for the time being, not going anywhere. Black bang in the middle, I think, is James Leach, and he pulls out, trying to find a way past Ryan Ludick. And that is Andres Rodeo behind him for company. And I think he might have James Leach is in the yellow at the back of these three. Ryan Ludick, meanwhile, now is just ahead of James, with Jeremy leading this pack of three. Let's see, Gideon Bernardi dropping down the field. Ooh, and Maslin is backwards. Hold the brakes, or at least don't roll back onto track, so that's fine. Careful with that rejoin now. Oof. Manages to avoid contacts. Gets going with a little bit of farming through T5. Greg Hofart, meanwhile, gets past Richard Bera. That is Brett Kirkhamp in the yellow. Almost don't know where to look. Ryan Ludick from P4. Through Kettlebottom's corner. Dennis Killett, I see, is getting past Daniel Haynes. This is further down the field in P15. Nick Hodson, who was a very short lap or two ago in P23 solid, has now made his way up to P11 in the only other sort of yellow livery side from Brett Kirkhamp out there right now for the Black House Sim Sports team. And very quickly made his way all the way up to P11, and no doubt some improvements to come. Richard Bera is in a drag race right now with Greg Hofart. And that is Brett Kirkhamp's yellow car just in front of them in the foreground that you've just seen go out of frame. And who is attacking the back of Andres Rodeo. There's another drag race here heading into the top. I'm going to quickly go on board. Brett Kirkhamp is now technically ahead, but he has the outside line to Andres Rodeo, who slips in just before the Corvette bridge. Nice bit of defense, parked it on the apex, takes the inside line for defense through turn 7 and safeguards that position, albeit with a little bit of farming. Drivers will need to mind those track limits as well. If they do it too aggressively, or the game thinks they've gained a significant advantage, they will get a slowdown penalty, as far as I'm aware. Definitely do not want that happening. These short sprint races. It's a tight pack of 4 here, this battle for P7. Brett Kirkhamp, Richard Bera, Greg Hofart, and Dirk Brand is in the mix here as well. Lots of alongside elbows out, noses being stuck into places. Currently on board now with Nick Hudson, P10, who's just rounding the final corner, pushing really hard. Up the main straight, he has Dirk Brand for company, who is sitting in his draft. And will Dirk make a move up the inside into T1? He's pulled out of the slipstream relatively early. It's a drag race to the finish, but he's going to slip back into Nick Hudson. I think, if anything, he should have tried to stay in the draft a little bit longer. Runs very wide there through T1. And he'll need to make another day of it. Greg Hobart, meanwhile, getting past Richard Beer for P8. Position change up at the top of the field here. Oh, I actually hear someone off track. Is that Jeremy de Villiers? Here's Jeremy de Villiers, who re-climbs onto the circuit in P4, but he's going to be under serious attack by James Leach at the Corvette Bridge. Just looking over the rear wing of Jeremy de Villiers here at James Leach, who is on the attack now, who's brought up significantly closer following that off-track excursion. But now it looks like Jeremy de Villiers has got that car calm and collected once again. As we approach the halfway mark of the circuit, falling down. The track is Sheldon Stunder. It looks like it's just been passed by Rudy Opperman. Full of close battles out on track right now. Dennis Gillett is in one of them, 0.2 seconds behind Mr. Sheldon Stunder. And that is incredibly close. Slide a piece of paper in between these two drivers. On board now with Dennis Gillett. They go up the hill. The gap will sort of lengthen initially, and then it will close up again under the accordion effect. This final corner is relatively quick though. Big puff of smoke there, and a little bit of a correction required by Sheldon Stunder. We saw the wiggle of the car, and that's going to allow Dennis to be in the slipstream now of the draft up the hill. Will he be able to inch closely enough to swing out wide into T1? I think he might be slightly too far back to make any sort of move stick, lest it be some sort of lunge, but I don't think that's happening this lap. But certainly a developing battle here, getting closer and closer. Into T3 again, they're closed out so much, and oh, there's a little bit of a mistake there, and there's a bit of overcooked essentially to run wide, and that's relieved a microsecond of pressure onto Sheldon. Nick Hudson is 0.1 seconds behind Richard Beer. I think that's actually an overtake in progress through the Corvette Bridge onto Richard Beer. It is indeed. And his next victim is going to be Andre Serodio. Lick of flame out the side of those exhausts at the driver's side door, I think. No, actually, passenger side door. On board with Nick Hudson, P9. He is in the middle of the sandwich. We see the blimp off into the sky ahead of them. That's the Goodyear hot air balloon. Zeppelin. Bill Mitchell's Bend took that pretty flat here. Final corner, T14. Let's see what Nick can do here. He has got a good exit relative to Andre Serodio. You can see the closing speed. If you want to stay in that draft as long as possible, he has to pull up now, and Andre has done the right thing going defensive and forced him around to the outside. But I think it's such a long straight here that he has enough time and space to sweep around the outside. Oh, contact is made. And Andre Wolf does a miracle work there to avoid running into the Dirk Brand and Richard Bera. But that could be a Stewardson Quarry coming our way, as that looked pretty meaty. Elbows out. Dennis Gillett, meanwhile, getting past Sheldon Stunder. Just. There's a bit of an overlap there heading into turn 3. Silence before the storm again. Now Sheldon Stunder and Dennis Gillett side by side. I think we worked out that it was Dennis Gillett with the lights on. Yep. And he has opted to stay on the soft tire again. He made it work last race and came 7th. And Sheldon Stunder, who he is battling right now, is out there on the medium tire coming down Harry Downs. So some different setups here that have been made onto the cars, but it certainly seems like it's working pretty much for both drivers. As I heard a lot of the other top drivers say that the hards were pretty much the go-to tire. Nothing else was worth trying, but looks like here these two drivers making the non-hard options work to a satisfactory degree. Ryan Lodick out in P3 here is got Jeremy de Villiers for company, just over half a second behind him. James Leach is 0.1 seconds behind Greg Hobart. This is your battle for P6. Let's go and have a little look on board. Front camera, facing camera, James Leach onto the back of Greg Hobart. Let's see if we can will him along and close this gap up to P6. Well, where's air traffic control? It looks like a banner being pulled very dangerously close to that blimp. And Sheldon Stunder has just managed to get around Dennis Gillett for P13, but he has him all over his rear bumper that we're looking over now, as Dennis Gillett attempts to take that position back, or take the fight to him at least. I see just flashing on the leaderboard here, Yuri Peretov has been marked as a DNF and has retired from the race. Second retiree, Sas van der Westhuizen, was an early one for some reason. I think I saw him dip into the start of quali or practice, and then that was it. Sure what happened to Sas tonight. Hopefully no sort of mechanical issue or long-term problem. Jeremy de Villiers side by side drag race down here with Ryan Lodick into T1. And that is Roxanne Bartle. He is now fighting for. This is for the scraps of the remainder of the podium here. P2 and 3, and Ryan Lodick is in there for P4 as well. And there's the yellow car, Brett Crocombe, slowly encroaching upon this tight 3, but they're going literally 3 wide through the Moraine sweep here. up to the Corvette bridge. Brett is now firmly in this battle as well. And he is immediately side by side Ryan Ludick, who's going to drop a position as he gets past. And that is P4. Hunting down that podium slot is Brett Kirkham. Can he do it with just 3 minutes remaining in this race? Under the Speedville Johnsonville Bridge, the carousel. James Leach P8 has got Nick Hudson ahead of him, 0.5 seconds, but I don't believe he's going to catch Nick at the pace differential that this is happening at. Both quick drivers though, for sure. Dennis Gillett here, side by side with Sheldon Stunder, is going to take the position if he manages to hold this inside line. He does not. Dennis Gillett slots in behind still. Brett Kirkham coming down the main straight now. He has pulled out of the slipstream of Roxanne Bottle and he is slotted in front to take that P3 coveted final podium position. But there's a minute and a half left in this race. Still anything can happen between all of these drivers that are incredibly close together. Dennis Gillett, I'm going to quickly pop back down to, who looks like he was possibly challenging Sheldon Stunder coming down the main straight here. Will he pull out, do any sort of dive into T1? He's too far back for that, as we verify from the onboard view. So what is going on at the sharp edge of the field here? Martin Grunewald, meanwhile, has been very quiet about him. He is comfortably out in front by about 3.2 seconds. He is heading into some back market traffic though that you can see in your foreground there. P20 and 21. Which is Alan Benson and Stuart Van Tonder, one of which just goes very much sideways and off the track. Perhaps intentionally, not sure, just to let the leaders through there. That was extremely generous if you do. Drivers don't need to jump out of the way for blue flags. They merely need to not defend the position if they're being lapped and remain predictable. Dennis Gillett's gotten around Sheldon Stunder. That was for P13. Have a quick look at Ryan Ludick now on the back of Roxanne Bartle, fighting with Greg Hofart immediately behind him as well. We were going a side-by-side drag race up Kettle Bottoms here, heading into that right-hander. It's a tight, hard-braking zone. We know that Roxanne Bartle has historically been really good on the brakes, and look at that, sweeps around the outside to retake that position. Roxanne Bartle, excellent driving, and a great deal of maturity and skill level shown there, and experience just to know that that confidence on the brakes, sweeping around the outside, defending that position beautifully. Nick Hudson getting around Greg Hofart, who's off at the final corner. It's going to place him under a lot of pressure by Dirk Brand. He's going to sweep around the outside for a freebie into P8. And that is it. Essentially, I've been napping here. Martin Grunewald, Jeremy de Villiers, he's having some off contact here with Brett Kirkham. Takes P3. That's round at that podium. Roxanne Bottle takes home a solidly defended P4. I was really enjoying that battle at the end, and I got distracted by the winners coming across the line. Ryan Ludick slots in P5. Nick Hudson with an amazing recovery drive to go P6. After, I think that incident placed him around about P23 at the back of the field. James Leach P7, Dirk Brand comes in a respectable P8 following the reverse positions, especially I think he finished in P4 or 5 in race 1. Greg Hopart P9 and Richard Bera to round out your top 10. Cool, that was a mouthful. That went really quickly. Lots of action out there on track tonight. I want to thank every one of you for joining, for the spectating tonight, and anyone who's tuning in off offline for when the stream gets saved as an offline video. And it's really been great to have all of you with me. The next race in the Volvo series is going to be at the Chang International Circuit. I think that's a Chinese one. And next week we'll be back, of course, for the round 2 of the SimGT3 series at Barcelona. It's going to be a night race. It's going to be raining. I'm looking forward to that action on track. And if you're in for a little spot of ad hoc action, we do have a little ad hoc race happening on Wednesday this week. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's a Gita 1600S, sort of inspired by the old Ford GT40 car, and that is across Fontenay. Sort of, again, historic French track, almost a bit of a Nürburgring feel to it, a Nordschleife feel, and that's all happening on Wednesday. But for now, that is me, Ryan Hill, signing off for SimRace South Africa, and that has been round 1 of the Volvos. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao, ciao.